Thinking of investing, working, or starting a business in the cannabis industry? We've got you covered right here on Plant Problems. Hosted by Tony Frischknecht, Plant Problems takes a different approach to cannabis than what you're seeing and hearing from the mainstream media. Come along with Tony and be in the know about how to invest, work, or start a cannabis business. Let's get the show started with your host, Tony Frischknecht.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Plant Problems. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm your host, Tony Frischknecht, and today is episode 6 in our 8-part series. We are continuing our conversation with Flavia Hungaro, who is a cannabis entrepreneur in Massachusetts. She's actually working through the social equity program out there. We've learned a lot since I've been talking with her, and if you haven't been able to catch up in this series, try to go back to part 1 of our series and start from there. But today we are going to be discussing triple net lease lessons. So without further ado, here's your show. Okay, I wanted to go back. Let's go back to the grow side, because you have that lease that you have in place, and you're paying on it. And you got, what was it, 32,000 square feet?
The whole building is 32,000.
How much is leased to you?
So on paper right now we have about 15,000 square foot, and there's also an additional area for office space that we have negotiated with the owner. And once we get to that point, we're going to add into our lease, or hopefully what I'm really planning to do is to find a way to purchase the building, because with that option to purchase the lease with the option to purchase, I have a certain amount of time to buy the building. And the same way I have an option to purchase, the other company who rents the other half also has the same option for a slight different amount of purchase price that they agreed upon. But in my like we were talking originally, that how important it is for you to have somebody looking over your contract and so forth. That was one of my beginner's mistake. I ended up signing something that I should have got help for that. But anyway, so I am into a point right now that I cannot get out of the lease. And if I decide to go forward and invest in this cultivation project, I definitely have to buy the building. Otherwise, I'll be putting money, and then 5 years later, I might not be able to continue there, for example.
How long is the lease for?
The lease is for 5 years. I've been, so it's probably like 3.5 or 4 years left right now. So
3.5. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so
I got it's the negotiation that we got for the purchase price of the building. It's really good. The lease price that I have for a square foot, it's incredible. And my idea originally was to expand to the other half of the building, but we didn't have enough money to hold off the whole building at that point. And he ended up, as a business, the property owner, he saw as an advantage for him to have another company come and pursue the licensing as well. So at this point, that's, the goal, because even if I buy the building, the rent that is coming from the other side, it will be able to be enough to for me to pay for the loan.
Mm-hmm.
If I get a loan for that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so how much money are you losing a month on the lease right now?
It's about 5,000.
But you have somebody leasing part of it, right?
Yeah. But there's also utilities that
Are they high? Oh yeah, you've got triple net, huh?
Yeah.
So I just did a podcast on triple net. You guys check it out. I think it's coming. Actually, I think it's coming up this Wednesday. So we talk about triple net and leases and stuff like that. That's another thing you learned about, right?
Yeah. And then I should, if I had planned out that, I would have started a lot smaller just to get my, the cultivation up and running. But now it's to a point that I have to do something with this place, and hopefully I'll be able to figure something out soon.
Is there a possibility where you could sublease it to somebody that would come in and do growing there?
I would have to, there's one thing that I have to go back on my contract and see if I'll be able to sublease because the owner's kind of like helping me out right now because he already had those tenants there.
Yeah.
While I've been renting, were there before me basically. So right now, and one of the ideas I had was to maybe find like an ideal partner that would have the funding so I could do the project together instead of giving up the space, because it's a great space and I think we have a lot of possibilities there.
Yeah, that's a good idea. You could potentially take that and say, hey, you fund the grow part of this. And because that, in a space that's 15,000 square feet, you could spend $1 million, no problem. Really. The grow has huge tax advantages, but the upfront cash it takes is so huge. And it can become a money pit real quick. And I'm a grower. We started in it. We did a 7,500 square foot place. Let me ask you this: Are there any?
You got building out like the whole 75,000, or you went into different phases?
So we did 7,500 our first place.
Mm-hmm.
However, I got a question for you. And then we acquired another 15,000 square feet. So my question for you is there any limit to grow operations right now, besides zoning?
Limit, you mean by the state or?
Yeah, does the state limit grow licenses?
The maximum allowed is 100,000 square feet.
Yeah, square foot, but the actual licenses themselves.
Oh, the minimum will be, I think it's up to 5,000 square feet minimum, which is a micro business.
Yeah, but what I mean is, are they only allowing in Massachusetts, are they only allowing 100 grow licenses?
Oh, no, not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. I feel like that's going to happen at some point. Yeah.
Okay. So for my experience, what happened to us is we got the biggest space that we could afford at the time, which was only 7,500 square feet. We put in hundreds of thousands. We were taking our money from our store and pumping it right back into the grow facility, right?
Mm-hmm.
So constantly reinvesting into a building we didn't own, constantly reinvesting. We had a lease option on it. And what had ended up happening is that there were a lot of failures that were happening around our Colorado. And what ended up happening is we were able to move into a growth space that was outfitted with $1 million+ in grow equipment, electrical upgrades, AC stuff, and we were able to move in there almost day 2 and start growing plants into our cycle. It required us to do a transfer. But what I'm going to say, or my point of all this is that you're going to have some failures out there that are going to happen over the next couple of years. So if you are able to build your retail platform, somehow either sublease this one, or, I like the idea of a partnership, but another partner that you can trust in a grow they're tricky. You have to trust that this person knows how to grow and can produce. because that's where a lot of arguments start happening, because you need so much for the store. He promised this or she promised this, and all of a sudden they're producing half what they said. That causes a huge strain on you and your business, right? But if you're able to be patient and wait for some of the fallout to happen over Massachusetts, you might be able to find a grow that's already built out. You'll have the connections through being in the industry for, 3-4 years. And you'll be like, I got a grower. We can partner up. He's a good guy. I know he's got some stuff available. And you can just put them right into a grow that's already built out, that's got millions of dollars invested. You're going to find a landlord that's like, God, I got to figure out who's going to rent this from me now. And they're going to pay a top dollar for it too.
Mm-hmm.
So I want you to keep that in mind. You don't necessarily have to do the build out. And speaking with somebody that's dealt with a lot of growers, I also have a lot of experience at working at hydroponic stores, and I know their attitudes and I know who they are, and they're not bad people, but a lot of them are flaky. A lot of them are, they have big egos, and they think they can grow so well, and it was their 10 plants in a basement that they've done really well with. But you open them up to a 10,000 square foot grow, and they want to take their knowledge from a basement of 10 plants and just multiply that by 100, and there you go. And it doesn't work that way.
Right.
And so finding that exact partner for a grow is probably one of the more challenging things to do that I've noticed, because I've hired a lot of them in the past too. And I consider myself an expert, but I'm not the best grower in the world. I wouldn't say I would put myself against the top 10 in the world. There's no way. There's a lot of amazing growers out there. However, I understand production and how to produce a lot of flower that will supply, a few different stores. So keep that in mind. If there is a way that you're not able to sink a lot of money into your expanding this grow, or if you can lose it as a loss leader and you can lease it out for $3,000 a month, and you pay $2,000 a month until you get out from underneath that shitty lease. You might have to pay to play, and unfortunately, you're learning that lesson over a 5-year period of, I really didn't know what I was doing here. And sometimes it's better to lose that money as opposed to throw good money after bad, right? I mean, we've all heard that saying.
Right.
So option in your grow, those are a few different things you can take advantage of. And I think when I had started, I didn't think, well, how am I going to find a grow that's all built out? I'm telling you, you're going to find them. People are going to go under. There was a lot of them that went out, especially in the beginning. Regulations eliminated half of them in Colorado.
Wow.
And then they would allow too, there's a lot of people that are growing illegally, right? They would also allow those people to get up to par with all their regulations and actually build their growth so that it was legitimate. So you're going to find that will happen too. And you might be able to partner with those people that have had some real success. They've had 2 or 3 years in their grow. They're producing regularly. They're regularly turning, once a week, they're putting out brand new flower. And maybe you partner up with them to help you out with these other stores. And then you don't have to put because, like I said, going back, you could lose $1 million like that.
Yeah.
You could spend. And I know from our conversation that you don't have millions of dollars to throw around.
No.
So I know we don't have much more time here, but I just want to touch on this. Step 6, I talk about product source. So being able to source that wholesale, whether you grow it yourself or you are able to have somebody partner up with somebody that can supply you. One of these things is that was hard for me to understand is, well, I can just grow it. I've done this. I couldn't grow enough. And I didn't have the money to. We talked about the value of the flower right now, right? And you had told me it was $4,000.
Minimum, yeah, I've heard more than that too. 4,500. I've heard more.
Which is amazing, right?
It is, yeah.
Same thing happened in Colorado. We were getting, when we started, opened up first, we were getting 4,000, 42. Some people were getting 4,500 a pound. It's short-lived though, because what I didn't realize is that it's a commodity. So what had happened is we were always chasing that number. And by the time we got to the production that we needed to really make money, the price had already dropped 1,000. The price had dropped 1,500. So we put in all that effort to get to that $44,000 number, and all of a sudden it's 25. And in these big facilities, if you're on it, like if you're the grower and you're there every day, 7 days a week, it'll take you a year just to get stuff level. And so my concern is it's going to take you a year to potentially it'd probably take you 6 months to a year to open your grow. And then by that, you're already losing $1,000 a pound because production's up. There's no limit on grows now, so production's happening. Mm-hmm. And then it takes you another year, 12 months, to just get a steady amount of flower production coming out. And by that time, now you're down to 2,500, right? So what did you really gain when you get to that $2,000 to $2,500 number? I mean, yes, they're still good, but if you're selling it through your door, I mean, even at $100 an ounce, which you'll see it at one point, and you're not seeing it right now, but that's $1,600 a pound, right? So you're probably selling for out the door $200 an ounce. You're still getting $3,200, which is more than that wholesale cost. It takes you longer to sell it, but when you have these big ups and downs in production, the constant is the customer is what you can control. You can't control that price fluctuation as much. And so like I said, by the time you get to when you can produce the numbers where you can make big money, the cost of that product has already dropped so much. It's like, well, why didn't I just buy it from somebody? I could have saved myself all this headache. So that's what I got out of our conversation about the 4,000. Well, why don't I do this? Because pulling yourself in those directions, again, takes you away from your focus of making that store a high priority and making that really sell a lot of products. Because if you can get a good customer basis where you have a 76% return, that's how you have that stability and foundation for your business. And there's a limited amount of retail stores. There's not grows right now. So those are going to be a dime a dozen. The retail's not. Now, however, the negative to that is 280E, which I know you met Kevin. I actually had a podcast. I'd urge you to check it out and listen to the conversation if you haven't. But we talk about ways that you can set up your accounting so you can avoid these huge taxes on 280E. Because then the next thing comes marijuana legalization across everything, and that'll change everything. But you need to do this to survive as a business owner right now. It's essential. So for getting into your dispensaries or grows value, I know those were some of your questions yesterday, and I want to give you a minute here to see what questions you might have for me now that I kind of spewed that on you, and it was a lot of stuff. So go ahead.
So let's see. So basically, you're saying that if you were to go back in time on your situation, and you probably would just focus on the retails and not even deal with cultivation, or
So I had a grow in place just like you did, right? But it was actually running. I was producing.
Mm-hmm.
So we had already invested money. We had it in there. I wouldn't have expanded upon it. Like right now, you don't have anything, right?
Mm-mm.
So I wouldn't have expanded upon it. Right now, I think you're too early because you don't have a grower, you don't have a store running. If you need one or the other, the retail is the answer. Now, I'm not saying to don't grow, but the current situation you're in, it's not ideal. You've got a shitty lease, um, and then you've got millions that you're going to have to plow into this. I was fortunate enough, we started before the regulations happened, so we were able to mold into it. But there were several businesses I built along the way that produced a lot more money for me that I took the efforts of another grower and used their product to build my company until I was able to invest in my own grow. And had I done it that way, I would have saved myself so much headache because all the stress lies on the grow and the farmer at the end of the day. Being able to control your margins is great, but all that stress falls on it, and there's going to be a lot of failures that happen. And I didn't realize that at the time. I was like, well, we can go through this process and I'm going to grow some good stuff. However, it was all selling, so it didn't matter where you got it. We had that issue that, okay, well, supply is very low, so prices are high. Well, you're going to have to pay some more, of course, yes. But if you strategically make partnerships with some people that you meet at these association groups and some other growers, you can say, hey, I know prices are going to fluctuate. What if I pay you, and for example, I pay you $3,000 a pound and I need 10 pounds a month. You're guaranteeing them $30,000. You're buying futures in cannabis. If you can negotiate those deals ahead of time with, I would say 2 to 3 strategic partners, then you spread your risk and you also maintain what you do is you create a steady cost for yourself, right? You're giving the grower a guarantee that he's getting his money, and you're also guaranteeing your margins because you know what it's going to cost every time you go to re-up. Most people didn't think about that at the beginning. They were just buy as they went. But if you can think 12 months in advance and say, hey, we might bump this up, but now let's start at 2 pounds a month, something like that. And then give them a guarantee, this is what my projected futures will be. Then all of a sudden you've eliminated pests, you've eliminated crappy employees, you've eliminated watering issues, you've eliminated cost of fertilizer, you've eliminated electricity costs, which is astronomical when you start going to a commercial grow. So these are the things that you limit by getting that constant price with the negotiation power of, I've got 2 stores, I need product, will you wholesale to me? By then, you'll have the system figured out. You can save for your own grow, whether it be this property in Torrent and Taunton or a new property, and you can start your own grow. Or maybe you just save enough money to buy your own grow from somebody that just went out of business. And that way you don't have to borrow any more money and still build as you go. And you take a lot less stress off of yourself.
Yeah, because on top of this project in time for cultivation, I also had another one in a different city where I could have up to 100,000 square feet of canopy, and that was like the dream, right?
It is.
Thinking about yeah.
It is a dream, and I know you've experienced growing, so you got that love for it. It's amazing, but it's the hardest part of this whole system.
Yeah.
Is being a farmer.
And then looking for products right now, I have a company that I sign negotiations with, and they are allowing me to start, for example, to begin a relationship with them. I would have to pay, let's say, $15,000 to get, the first products. And then after that, they'll be able to work with me on a consignment basis. So that way I don't need so much capital towards
inventory, right?
Acquiring, the product for inventory, yes. So that would save me, some money up front that way.
Yeah.
But, I don't know how many companies will be willing to do the same thing, especially because there's not enough product out there. Before, I heard there were a lot of companies doing consignment. Nowadays, not so many. So, but definitely, and I see a good way if I can find those companies to work with. Definitely.
Yeah, and those are going to be your relationships that, again, you're going to build in these association groups, because you're going to be in there with a bunch of people that are in cannabis. They're extractors. They are they're growers. They have retail outlets. They have delivery stores, and you can start working together with these, because you guys are kind of all one. And you're going to have the little guys, which you're going to be a part of little guys, and you're going to have these big guys up here that don't deal with anybody. And that's how you're going to stay alive, is working with these couple guys. I met, a few business partners in my association group that made me a multimillionaire, because I went to these, I went out and I networked, and sometimes that's what it takes. Okay, so a couple deliverables, and then we'll come back to our story here, and so I can give you some more information. But one thing I want you to do, if you haven't already done it, is personal finance budget.
Okay.
Create it. How much is your housing? How much is your food? How much is your electricity, your phone bill? Just simple stuff, okay? Just come up with a list of that, and we'll talk about that next time, okay? And I'll show you how important it is, because it'll help you out as you grow, okay? So we got the association groups. You're going to find 3 association groups, and you're going to sit in, right?
Yeah.
And check out, if you're having a tough time, reach out to NCIA, National Cannabis Industry Association. And they're all over the U.S., but I believe they have an NCIA in Boston. Reach out to them and see what local groups they have. That might help you out.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
Because they've been around since 2009, so they've got a lot of different connections. And then the other thing I would like you to do is, would you share with me an outline of your business plan?
Yeah.
Okay. That would be great, and we could talk about that. And then let's have a discussion about how you pick your partners. I'd be curious on what you're looking for. I think that's a very valuable conversation. I never knew about it until I had to go through it, right? So I'd like to understand, where you sit with and what your process is and how you find them, okay?
Okay.
Okay, cool. Guys, what I'm going to do here is, again, we're going to bring you back into another episode with Flavia. This has been fun going through all the stuff she's doing. And we're going to go back and kind of get the rest of her dreams and really what's driving her into being a cannabis entrepreneur. So thanks so much for joining me, and I will see you next time.
You've just listened to another insightful episode of Plant Problems. If you like what you heard so far, don't forget to tell your friends and colleagues. For additional resources or to leave a review, head over to plantproblem.com. Join us again next week on Plant Problems with Tony Frischknecht. We look forward to having conversations with you as we go along this journey.